one big change. Craig Jones not only the head coach. Craig Jones is now the defensive coordinator again at Lakeshore High. It's been a while since you did it. Is it like riding a bike?
We'll find out. I mean, I feel comfortable. It was a good spring. We lost our defense coordinator. Coach Womack moved over to Walker High, and obviously wish him the best of success. He did a great job for us the last 5 years. But I'll be taking over that, and I guess the biggest thing is we're not changing our defensive scheme or any of our calls or anything. So there's not going to be this huge, you know, situation where the kids are all of a sudden have to learn a new system. They're still going to be very comfortable with the system that we're running.
How have you had to adjust? Because you could be these last. I mean, since you got this job, it was, hey, I'm the manager of things. I can be everywhere. That kind of thing. Have you had to maybe make an adjustment to where if the defense comes off the field and you're wanting to say, hey, we need to make this adjustment, but oh my goodness, Coach Jones, it's 3rd and 4. What do you want us to do? Have you seen yourself had to make an adjustment yet?
Well, we've thought about all those things, and hopefully we've got things in place to where communication within our staff can alleviate those issues, and having, whether myself or another coach go back there and be able to go over the adjustments. That way, I don't always have to be off the sideline, and I can still manage the game. But yeah, it's definitely something that put a lot of thought into, especially just making a decision that I was going to take over calling the defense. Was how does it affect us in preparation? How does it affect us in the play in play out dynamics of the game, communication between the coach and staff. All those things have been talked about and addressed, and we'll do some dry runs during a scrimmage and a jamboree to hopefully have it all ironed out for week one.
Talking about the 2019 Titan on the defensive side of the ball, let's work outward in. It's pretty hard not to say I'd go to war with your cornerbacks. I mean, that the effect of having 2 and maybe 3 very good defensive backs allows everything else to work. Like if you can cover for a second longer, that allows that defensive lineman to get to the quarterback or the linebacker to get to the quarterback. Talk about what your secondary is able to do and some of those players that are going to step up.
Well, first off, we've been fortunate the last couple of years to have some really good cornerbacks, and we've got Brendan Perry and Cullen Ziegler who are coming back as our returning starters. Both kids with D1 offers, and they allow us to be very flexible with what we do, really, with the other 9 players on defense. Whether it is playing some sort of a man scheme and trying to put an extra guy in the box, or some sort of a mix man with some zone. Just say, hey, we need you to go try and take this guy out of the game, for the opponent. It gives us a lot of flexibility defensively. So obviously having them back is going to be a big part of hopefully the success that we have defensively. Safety is where we've got to fill in. We lost all 3 of our starters at safety. Ryan DeGrew, who was at running back last year, is going to step in and be a starter for us. And in the other 2 positions, they're going to be kind of a rotation between probably 4 or 5 kids. Offensively, that's where Max and Jake Smeroldo are going to help fill in. Some young kids like Gavin LeBlanc and James Young, Jade McLean, who are all sophomores, are going to have to get in there and give us some playing time as well. Especially, when we have the early games and the fatigue and, still dealing with the high humidity and all that stuff, they're going to have to be able to step in and, other than just special teams, give us some quality reps defensively in the secondary.
Your linebacking core.
I like our linebacking core. We've got 2 returning starters in Devin Wallbacker and Simon Willie. Along with them, Scott Scalia is going to be kind of a flex guy who's going to play on the defensive line. He was an all-district defensive lineman, but he's also going to stand up a little bit and play some linebacker for us. And I feel like the biggest thing this year is, with Devin being a junior and Simon being a senior, is for them to kind of take the reins of the defense and be able to make the calls and the adjustments, and not put it. Last year it was really our safeties making all the checks and everything, and I think this year it's going to have to be more of our linebackers.
That's me knocking on wood. What does a healthy Zach Bernard do to change what you do up front on that defensive line?
I don't know if it changes what we do as much as it just makes we can be that much more disruptive. Having him along with Deontay Dupree somewhere within the tackles, because we're going to move them all over the place. Um, they can be very, very disruptive to different schemes. Um, Scott, when he plays defensive line, his speed, his get off, um, is his biggest attribute. And that's something that we try and put to use, whether it's putting him, sometimes even as far inside as a nose guard, just because he's so quick off the ball. And then obviously, when needed, we're going to put Christian back at his position, which he was an all-state performer at. So when we have to have it, I feel like we can put a pretty good front out there that's got two guys that were all, or three guys that were all district, but one of them was also all metro and all state. And then the one that didn't get any of the accolades because he broke his ankle is the one who is potentially the best of the guys on the D line, which is Zach.
You know my last question that's coming. What's your feel? If this tape recorder was off and this video camera was off, what's your feel? Because the reflex of people who haven't seen Lakeshore yet is, oh well, it's Lakeshore, so anything short of the dome, is considered a failure, or stuff like that. But what's your feel on what the 2019 Titans have? Is this team capable of following that run of its predecessors?
I think this team has the potential, but that's always a scary word. There's that saying, potential means nothing until you go out and prove it. But I think if you're going to ask me my gut feel for this team, I think a lot of it's going to be on how healthy we can be. We're not as deep as we've been in the past. Last 2 years, we've had the luxury of having one of our better receivers tear his knee up and plug another guy in and continue to make that run. Our running back broke his leg. Last year Zach Bernard breaks his ankle. We were able to plug in some kids who weren't necessarily freshmen or sophomores. They were still juniors and seniors that were stepping in and replacing them. And I don't know if we have that depth right now. Hopefully we can stay healthy early, and that'll allow us to let these young kids who have come in, who I really do like our freshman class, and I think there are going to be several of them that are going to push for playing time on special teams. But if we can get a good, preseason month of August and maybe September, mid-October, and really let them get familiar with what we're trying to do, that'll create the depth that we need to make the run later on in the season. So if you're going to ask me gut feel, it's going to be how healthy can we stay?